On the morning of October 14th, 2011, Elijah Merritt was found hanging from a bedsheet tied to the rusted bars of a holding cell in the Pine Valley County Jail. The police ruled it a suicide within the hour, but something didn't sit right. The 22-year-old college senior had been arrested the night before during a traffic stop for what officers described as noncompliance and resisting arrest. What began as a broken taillight turned into a violent altercation. He was tossed, dragged from the car, and booked in on charges that never quite added up. The jail had no functioning security cameras, and the guard log showed inconsistencies. By the time his mother, Elijah Merritt, was informed of his death, her son's body was already on its way to a state morgue. No autopsy had been performed yet. No lawyer had been called. And yet, the paperwork was being finalized. Death by suicide. Case closed. Elijah wasn't a troublemaker. He was a journalism student at Morehouse College, weeks away from graduation, an advocate for local prison reform, and known for his short documentaries about poverty and policing in small southern towns. He had dreams of producing for PBS and telling the stories no one else would touch. He was funny, patient, and unusually principled for someone his age. He volunteered with local youth programs and wrote editorials about over-policing in black neighborhoods, even while living in one. His girlfriend, Zariah, described him as someone who made you feel like truth had a pulse. His mother, a former nurse, had raised him alone after his father died in prison. They used to joke that Elijah would be the first in the family to break the generational curse. He almost made it. At first, no one wanted to listen. The coroner's report listed asphyxiation by hanging. The sheriff's department released a 2-sentence press statement. Mr. Merritt took his own life while in custody. We are cooperating fully with state guidelines. But the inconsistencies began to unravel fast. The bedsheets in the holding cell were synthetic, thin, and ripped too cleanly to suggest self-hanging. Fellow detainees told independent journalists that Elijah had been beaten the night before. His hands had defensive wounds, not consistent with suicide. His knuckles were bruised. His ribs fractured. The toxicology report showed traces of ketamine, a sedative not issued by the jail. The local media didn't touch the story, but a freelance investigator and ex-cop named Ruben Diaz, who had once blown the whistle on corruption in the same department, took an interest. What he found pointed to something darker. Ruben obtained leaked dispatch audio from a former colleague. The audio revealed that Elijah's arrest was flagged before the stop even occurred. He was under special watch, part of a quiet initiative by a few officers targeting community activists. What's more shocking? One of Elijah's short films featured footage of the very officers who arrested him, engaged in brutal treatment of a homeless veteran during a protest cleanup. The footage had been submitted anonymously to a local watchdog group just a month earlier. In a leaked internal memo, one officer referred to Elijah as a problem kid who liked cameras too much. When Ruben confronted one of the jailers off record, he broke. He didn't hang himself. We were told to scare him. Things got out of hand. The case exploded on social media. Hashtags like #JusticeForElijah and #TheQuietCell began trending. National outlets finally picked it up. Civil rights lawyers stepped in. Protests ignited across Georgia. But even with public outcry, no officer was convicted. Internal investigations led to suspensions and early retirements, but no jail time. The sheriff resigned. The jail was shut down temporarily, only to be reopened a year later under a new name. Elijah Merritt received a $1.7 million settlement from the city, but no apology. She used the money to start the Elijah Project, an initiative for legal aid and investigative journalism grants for young black reporters. Elijah's story became the subject of a Netflix documentary, Holding Cell 4B. His film, The Streets Are Watching, was finally aired posthumously. Elijah Merritt's death wasn't a tragic fluke. It was the result of a system that eats its own critics and calls it procedure. He wasn't killed in a back alley or a battlefield, but in a public facility under the watch of those sworn to protect. The case of Elijah reminds us that social injustice doesn't always wear a hood or carry a torch. Sometimes it wears a badge and files paperwork. And sometimes the greatest threat to power is a young man with a camera, a conscience, in a story that could shake the system.